Hello, 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 appraisers. Bryan Reynolds here. I want to apologize. I've been MIA a little bit lately, been out of action, and I want to apologize to you for that. We try and do these on a weekly basis, and had some life kind of hit me upside the head, and I've been kind of out of action for a little bit. So my apologies. I've had some personal issues and had to deal with those, but I'm back. I'm excited to be back. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, maybe ways of handling some stuff and what's going on with 2024. It's a new year. I'm excited. I hope you are. Come on back. Let's have a conversation and talk all about it. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at AppraiserELearning.com. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on over there. Now, I was also want to thank my sponsor, LI Administrators and Insurance Services, for your continued support of the Appraisal Update podcast. And if you're listening to me, don't do it now if you're driving, but you can jump over to the YouTube channel. YouTube, search Appraiser eLearning, and we have a channel there where you can actually see the broadcast. And if you do that, go ahead and hit subscribe and like us, for crying out loud. Give us a little review. We love those. But started the podcast out saying, you know, life happens, and boy, it has for me over the last 21, 22 days, something like that. We've had a couple of deaths in the family. My mom went into the hospital December 29th. You've heard me talk about my mother on the show, her Red Hat organization, and she's 87 years old, and she's been doing excellent, but went into the hospital on December the 29th and had a real scare. While she was in the hospital, her husband ended up, we had to tell you he was non-responsive, had to get him over to the hospice house there, and he passed on January 1st. So our New Year's Eve was there, and as a family, pretty much saying goodbye, and just tough stuff. I also had an aunt pass on the exact same day, January 1st, one of my favorite aunts on the planet, and so just a tough start. My mom went back into the hospital. She got to attend my aunt's funeral, a little bit of that, and Mark's, but did not get to go to a service up in Charlestown. So that was hard as well. She's been in and out of the hospital, and she's been diagnosed with cancer, and we'll know more in the coming days. Having a PET scan this week. So, you know, I kind of fell down a little bit, had to deal with some family issues and some family business. You got to deal with the business side of that, as hard as that is to do when you're trying to grieve. And so we'll talk about things that you can do to try to dust yourself off and bounce back a little bit. It's life. It's hard. Doesn't matter if they're 120. It's still hard when you lose someone that you love and care about. And I want to bring in my good friend Hal, also a business partner over at Appraiser eLearning. And Hal's had some stuff going on in his family too. And I know, Hal, my heart goes out to you. I know you've had some struggles as well. And so, you know, how do you deal with those days when it's just, I mean, it's hard. It's just hard.
It is. You know, my father, you know, he's my hero. He's the guy that got me into this business. He's the one that told me, hey, you know what? This is a really good business. You get them on the way up, you get them on the way down. If the market's great, you're going to do appraisals. If the market's really bad, you're going to do appraisals. I've watched my dad. I've learned from my dad. I've spent a lot of time with him over the years, obviously. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's a couple of years ago, and it's just really difficult to watch. Kim Green, my wife, and I went to Humboldt to visit with mom and dad over the Christmas break. Christmas Day, my dad didn't even recognize me. And it's difficult. And you get wrapped up in the immediacy of it. You get wrapped up in the things that have to be done with family. There are also, I mean, obviously feelings of inadequacy, feelings of guilt. Am I doing enough? Have I done enough? Those kind of things. But, you said something in your intro that really struck me, because it's a phrase that I heard a couple of years ago in an interview I was doing on the PI side with a lady who lost her husband to a drunk driver. And I was asked to go speak to her and see if she would be willing to hear an apology from that driver. And she said to me, she said, I don't have a yes in my heart right now for that. I'm not saying no, but I don't have a yes in my heart. We got to talking, ended up talking for about 45 minutes, an hour, lots of tears shed in the interview. This lady lost her partner of 30-something years to an absolutely just avoidable situation. She was heartbroken, but she said, I asked her, I said, are you okay? And she said, I'm fine. She said, this is life. It doesn't always work out the way we want it to. It doesn't always happen the way we want it to, but this is life. And our job as human beings is to pick up the pieces and deal with it. When I met her, she was in the front yard, weeding the garden. Anyway, the thing I took away from that interview was, this is life. It is life. My dad asked me a year ago in one of his lucid moments, he said, why is this happening to me? And I said, Dad, it's not happening to you. It's happening. And this is just life.
Yeah.
So look, life can be hard. Life can be draining. It can be difficult. The thing I do personally is I do some compartmentalization. I allow myself to, soak in the misery sometimes, but then I put that aside and I get work done. And for me, being at the office doing work is it's not a distraction. It's just a helpful thing to do to get my mind right. And we were talking earlier today, it's like getting out and moving the body, exercising, just doing something other than sitting there spiraling in the sadness of it all sometimes. It's important to just keep living.
And it doesn't really matter, how old they are or how much time my dad was 63, dropped dead in the backyard, right? He was doing the yard. Mom talked him into, let the grandson go out there and mow. And what should he have done? He should have came in and cooled down and had a glass of lemonade. Instead, he fired up the weed eater, and just nonstop. And he dropped dead. And, we didn't have a chance to say goodbye or anything else. And it's just hard. I remember at the funeral, my doctor, Dr. Ann Johnson, from when I was a little kid, her and her husband had a practice, and she was my doctor. And as a little kid growing up, and she came in and said, what happened? And I said, he's out, I'm frustrated. He's out doing yard work and he dropped dead, and she's like, well, good. That kind of struck me a little bit. I'm like, what? And she's like, Bryan, your dad died doing something he loved doing. And that made me feel completely different, right? That gave me a new, you're right. My grandmother, who was, just kind of, we all worshiped her. One of the kids couldn't say Mamaw. It came out Mamu. and she was known as Mamu. She died at 63, had cancer. She'd be in another room. You'd say, Mamu. And she'd go, who? And the memories that I have, I cook with her copper bottom pot all the time, and it's the pot I grab if I'm cooking something, right? But I was a little kid, and my mom had us go in, all three boys, called us the boys, and looked at her, and she was dying, and she reacted to some medicine and came up and coughed, and it scared me. I was 9, 10 years old, and I ran out of the room crying. And I told my mom later, I'm like, why? Why did you have me go in there and see Mamu like that? I love Mamu. I don't want to remember her that way. Why did you do that to me? And my mom looked me dead in the eye and she said, I didn't do that for you. And that put a whole new perspective on. Oh, okay, you did that for Mamu. I feel better about that. So, we've got to just spend as much time as we can and love those around us, and call folks or drop an email, write a letter, go knock on the door and say hello, because we never know, right? And it's hard whether they're 120 or whether 63. It's hard. And to your point, what kind of snapped me out of it a little bit was changing location, and if you can go to the beach, that's great. You can't always do that, but if it's just getting out of the house, for me, I'm in this little bitty house, and the walls are closing in. It's driving me crazy. Go for a walk. Go to the park. Walk your dog. Just get out of that environment, right? Do some breathing exercises. Just exercise in general. Just talk to somebody. Pick up the phone, for crying out loud. Talk to somebody. You got 24 hours. You got 24 hours to be blue, and then boom, 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 you got to snap out of it. And so I'm excited to be back. I'm jumping back into work. I still got to go do some business stuff for my mom once in a while, but I had to go get the death certificates the other day, which is not fun. But life continues, right? And we've got to live our life the best we can and move forward. So talking about that, I'm back at work. I'm ready to roll. 2024 is got to get better, and I'm optimistic that it's going to. So what's happening over at Appraiser eLearning? What are we doing? New classes, new instructor? What's happening over there for 2024?
There's a lot going on at Appraiser eLearning for 2024. We've just got so many fun things going on. I'm teaching a couple of classes this week and next week. I know you've got a bunch of classes on the live schedule coming up in the next couple of months, several months. Pam Teal has a new class. It's just coming out. We're real excited about that. Kathy Putinat has a class coming out. We're really excited about that. Those are both in the approval process. We've just got a lot of things going on, but not just education. For those of you listening, Bryan and I and the entire team here at Appraiser eLearning, we try to stay up on top of things that are going on in the industry. So we send somebody to pretty much every industry meeting. Bryan and I were at the Aero conference out in Salt Lake last fall. Aero's going to be here in Nashville this spring. We'll certainly be there. There's a congressional hearing coming up. The ASB is talking about bias in the appraisal industry. This is the last hearing in that series. I'm going to be there for the hearing. And then the next day on February the 14th, what I like to call amateur night. Other people call it Valentine's Day. We're going to be at the FHA Valuation Modernization Summit. It's a workshop about appraisal issues, and Bryan and I will both be there at that. So, we're trying to stay on top of industry things that are going on. What are some other ones that we're looking at going to?
Yeah, we're excited about all those, and just so everybody understands, because a lot of people misunderstand that, it's FHFA, right? FHFA, the regulator for Fannie and Freddie. Right. So we are excited about that. I'll be at TAFAC. That's an advisory council for the Appraisal Foundation, February 1st. We've got a lot going on, and then before you know, I've got a webinar coming up with Mark Calabria, January 31st at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I know you've talked to Mark a few times. You've had him on the Buzzcast, I believe.
Mark is a really interesting man. He's an economist by trade. He's super smart. He just wrote a book, Shelter in the Storm, about how FHFA handled the financial crisis, or the COVID-19 crisis, and how to handle keeping the markets running during that strange time. Mark kind of talks about things from a 1,000-foot view. He is in favor of appraisers. He is a pro appraiser kind of guy, and he's just a really smart, interesting man. So if you're listening and you want to come in and hear a really smart take on this business from the 1,000-foot perspective, Bryan's webinar with Mark Calabria is going to be a really good opportunity to learn about kind of how the regulators and how the people at the top of the food chain think about appraisers. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping it gives us a lot of insight for 2024. You know, where are we going? What's on the horizon for the practicing appraiser in the next coming month. So I'm really excited to have him on January 31st. It's free. The price is right. It's free. January 31st at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. And that'll be over on the YouTube channel. So be sure you subscribe and you'll be in the know for that. And then before you know it, Hal, we've got the conferences. You know, the states have some conferences. I'll be in Texas at the beginning of March with the ATA in San Marcos. I know SCPAC has their conference coming up in February. I think in Charleston, which what a great place to go. And then ACE is coming to town, right? We'll be in Colorado Springs for the ACE conference. That's the Appraiser Conference and Trade Show. And Appraiser eLearning partners up with the National Association of Appraiser for that one. It's in Colorado Springs in April 20th through the 23rd. And then the next big conference will be our conference, the Val Expo. And so talk about that August 19th through the 21st. We're changing locations. Let me clarify. We're still in Vegas, right? We're still in Vegas, but we're going to be at a new facility. Hal, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the facility where we've hosted Val Expo for the past several years is going to be under construction. We are going to be hosting Val Expo at Caesar's Palace this year. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm looking forward to the new venue. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It's a great space. And we've got a lot of fun things planned for this show. It's going to be the best Val Expo so far. And not only are we going to be talking about very significant appraisal issues, we're going to be hearing from thought leaders in the industry. We're also going to host the second annual Val Expo Open. And that's one of the things I'm looking most forward to is Bryan and me doing the promo video for the golf tournament out there at Val Expo, because I've got a couple of ideas for how to set up the long shot for the putt-putt course.
Hey, I can make it.
That's going to be fun.
I'm not stressed. You throw whatever you want at me, I can make that long shot. I'm confident that my putt game is on. I'm going to make it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. You know, we had vendors would sponsor a hole, and then they decorate it in different fashions. And we had people they had little sand traps. They had obstacle courses. We had some really creative hole designs, and it was short notice, and now they know what to expect. So, and I think we gave some awards for that, didn't we? We did,
and we gave a best hole award. One of the vendors had done putt golf, you have these obstacles. One of the vendors had putting up words you're not supposed to use in appraisals as obstacles, which was really cute. I thought that was a great way it's a teachable moment, and it's fun. It was just fantastic. So Val Expo coming up. What are the dates, Bryan?
August 19th through the 21st, 2024, right around the corner.
Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas. You need to be there. It'll be a fun conference. And after that,
September, we're right back in Vegas again. This will be at Planet Hollywood. Not as close as last time, so you got a little time in between. But September the 14th through the 17th in Las Vegas, again at Planet Hollywood. And we always like teaming up with NAA to do that. And I know you've done some video talking about the Appraiser Relief Fund, as Mike Brunson calls it, ARF. but tell the listeners a little bit about that, Hal.
You know, we were talking at the top of the podcast about, things that come up in life that sometimes take you out of your normal course of business. A fire happens at your office building. No fault of your own. Somebody sets a fire by accident. You lose an office. A hurricane comes through, or you live in Maine and you get coastal flooding. Your office gets damaged. The Appraiser Relief Fund is there to help appraisers through those hard times with some money to help them, with education, with licensing, with office expenses. There's an application process, but that's one of the things I love about the NAA, and one of the reasons I'm so proud to be a board member is they put a lot of time and effort, and the summit is where they raise most of the money for the Appraiser Relief Fund. They have a couple of fundraisers there, and it's just a fantastic conference, really good people. And the NAA, they're there to support boots on the ground appraisers.
There's a lot of people that have talked about, oh, why do I need to join that? Or why do they, or what do they do? If you come and experience it, you get involved, you're going to fall in love with the people. I mean, it really is a great community. We talk about all the time some of these clubs on Facebook and social media that are just, I mean, they're just mean. Let's just face it, right? And we may have a difference of opinion, but we're professional and kind and civil, and the folks at NAA really want you to succeed. I mean, it really is a great group, and if you give it a chance, I think you're going to find that you really end up loving that association. Hal, don't leave. I've got to say thank you to our sponsor, and then I want to ask you a question. So I'm going to spring it on you. Just hang tight. Just a second. It's an easy question. Don't stress. We were talking about being prepared and in the event you had an emergency. And listen, boy, if you don't have E&O coverage, you may be really into your eyeballs in an emergency. So don't mess around with that. For 45 years, LIA Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance to valuation professionals just like you. They apply superior customer service, exceptional liability education, and simply unparalleled claim defense. They serve over 10,000 real estate professionals all across the country. They also have commercial bonds, general liability, insurance coverage, as well as cyber liability, and so much more. Do yourself a favor and visit liability.com to learn more about how LIA can help protect you and your business. You don't want to mess around with that, folks. Check out liability.com and see how they can help you out. So, I said it'd be easy, Hal. So we talked about Pam Till. She's a new instructor for Appraiser eLearning, and love Miss Pam. She just stepped in and took my FHA class over for me when I had a family emergency. And so thank you, Miss Pam. I appreciate that. Kathy Putanan, one of my favorite people as well on the planet, just a super nice human being, just great people. And they started teaching for us after they attended a little event. And so we had an instructor training last year. It was fabulous. And rumor has it, I had a little bird flying around tweeting in my ear that we got another one on the horizon, right? So 2024, talk to us about some instructor training. And if one of my viewers would be interested in instructing a class for Appraiser eLearning, what's the avenue to do that, Hal?
Well, last year we decided to host our first annual I-Corps Instructors Conference and Retreat, I-Corps. And we had a gathering of about 15 people here in Nashville. Some of them were already instructors for us. Some of them were hoping to be instructors for us. It was one of the most amazing workshops I've ever been a part of. We had outside people not involved in the appraisal industry, not involved in the kind of circuit teaching business, but we had actual professional educators come and talk to us about classroom tactics and methods that work. Molly Sering came. She's a professional educator here in Nashville. She came and talked about some very practical classroom methods you can use to get people involved, involving breaking them to small groups and give them specific tasks to do. We had another young lady come and talk about how to write a course description, how to write a bio. And it's not just related to appraisal as much as it is related to how to make presentations, how to deal with the classroom. Bryan spoke at the I-Corps last year about classroom management, how to handle that one crazy student that's asking all the questions or trying to be a know-it-all. Look, our goal here at Appraiser eLearning is to produce high quality education. That takes time, that takes money, that takes effort. We pride ourselves on the fact that we provide really well-produced education. We have the best instructors in the business. And one of the things we like to do is share with our instructors, best practices for presentations, how to make a slide deck that's not 4,862 bullet points on one page, right? How to communicate better, those kind of things. It was just a really fantastic event. June 2 through 4 here in Nashville is the tentative date that we're looking at for hosting iCore 24. If you would like to teach for Appraiser eLearning, please plan on joining us in Nashville June 2 through 4 for the Instructors Conference and Retreat. We'd love to have you here. It's a really, really impactful and meaningful time with like-minded instructors.
iCore 2024, you're going to love it. Highly encourage you, even if you're just considering a little bit, to check it out. There is a cost associated with that. It takes a lot to put these things on. So there will be a registration fee, but I tell you, I've been to instructor training from the IAAO, from IFA, the Appraisal Foundation, the Columbia Institute. This has been my favorite. I've listened to PhDs talk about, adult learning and way to grasp someone's attention and how to handle the trouble student, and there are all kinds of different techniques, and how you guys put together one little session, and we put you on. We want to see your teaching style. We want to see how you present in front of a live audience. I mean, that's what you're going to be doing, and so. And let me say this: if you are someone that is a writer, right? You're a developer. You have something to say, but you're not comfortable standing up and presenting. Well, we can help you with that. We can kind of overcome some of that. But if you're like, no, that's not my thing, right? That's not my thing. The writing, that's fine, right? We can have you write and get your content, get your message out, and we'll have somebody else present it. We're happy to do that as well. But if you're just a little unsure, we can help you along to get better and to have that confidence. My brother's an actor and a director and local community, but he's done some movies and commercials and different things. He drove me into a few. And he said, Bryan, I couldn't do what you do. And I said, what are you talking about? And he's like, I said, you're in front of a live audience or a TV camera all the time. He said, yeah, but I have a script and I rehearse. And there's something to be said about rehearsing, right? But it's a meaningful, powerful story when you're telling story on some people call them war stories, right? But they have to be relevant to the content. Don't just go off on a tangent and never circle back around to the content. But one of the things that you guys did, Hal, is you had a 5-minute presentation for everyone there, and they had to do something on vulnerability. And I'm like, what is this stuff? What is Hal doing? I mean, I want to know these guys know appraisal theory and what the economic principles are. And, if they're representing us and they're going to teach appraising, I want to make sure they know something about content. And you're like, no, trust me on this. And it was the most amazing thing I saw. Talk just briefly a little bit about that, because it was pretty incredible.
The idea was to have each person in the instructor workshop do a short 3 to 5 minute presentation that shows vulnerability and has a takeaway. I had my story that I'd worked on for several weeks. We gave these assignments well ahead of time. I was shocked by the end of the morning, there had been many tears shed in the room. There's some very, very, very personal stories told, but they all had a takeaway. And here's the thing: if you're teaching appraisers, for instance, when I teach my review class, I tell a couple of war stories that showed that, I've made mistakes in the past too.
Sure.
They happen. And when you, as a teacher, share your vulnerability with the students, the people that are there to learn, I think if you do it genuinely and you openly just say, hey, I screwed up back here, I did this thing, whatever, it's helpful to let them know that you're a human being too. When an instructor gets up and says, you got to do everything the way I do it, I've never made a mistake, I don't make mistakes, my stuff is always perfect. It's like, oh, come on. Nobody believes that, right?
Right.
So we had another assignment that we had talked about and we'd handed out the night before, and we got so wrapped up into that one that we didn't do the other one. Everybody went home. We're just like, all right, we're done. But it's an amazing experience to be involved in iCore. And if you want to teach for Appraiser eLearning, check it out. As soon as we have it on the website, Bryan will mention it on his podcast with specific dates and details for how to sign up. But as soon as we launch it, and if you have any interest in teaching with Appraiser eLearning, sign up. There's limited space. We can't have too many people in these rooms. So sign up, get it nailed down, and we'd love to see you in Nashville for that.
Yeah, you're not going to want to wait because, as Hal said, it's going to be a limited number of folks. We want this to be, a smaller, intimate group. And I'll tell you, the exercise that he's describing, it was incredible. Not only was the audience members crying, some of the people up delivering their presentation got teary-eyed. And one lady sitting over here said, stop, I can't cry anymore. She said, stop. And but I will say this, not only did it let us see a little bit inside the individual speaker, right? And there were certain speakers up there that were like, I want to come give you a hug right now, right? But everyone that was there left that building with a sense of community. I mean, there is no question. We all felt very close when we left there as a group, and it was a very eye-opening and rewarding experience for me, and I think we only got good responses from all the attendees. So, as Hal mentioned, if you're interested, even the least bit interested in doing some instruction for Appraiser eLearning, come join us, and we'll get you more details coming very, very soon on that. But don't delay, because once those seats fill up, we'll be done for 2024, and we'd love to have you in Nashville. Hal, any last minute things, or somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of Mr. Hal?
The best way to get in touch with me is by email. It's Hal, H-A-L, at storyboardemp.com. We'll share that in the description below this video. It'll also be in the podcast description on the podcast service. Again, it's Hal at storyboardemp.com. And seriously, if you have any interest in teaching for Appraiser eLearning, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to come to Nashville and spend some time with us this summer. And again, to produce relevant, new, updated education takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And we are committed to producing well-produced, meaningful education that people, quite honestly, Ben Maxwell said it the other day, said, we've broken the CE barrier. We've had several webinars over the past year that were not for CE. They were specific topics that appraisers wanted to learn about, and we sold out several of those webinars because we want to provide education that is stuff that you want to learn, not just because you have to learn. Enough of the sales pitch for Appraiser eLearning.
Yeah, that being said, we are bringing back the Appraisal Report webinar. That was a monthly webinar, typically the fourth Thursday of every month. And we got marked on January 31st. That's not the fourth Thursday, but that's when we could fit that in. We did talk to Scott Cullen, and we've already locked him in for February. That's February the 22nd. That'll be back at 10 a.m. So we're excited to have Scott Cullen on. He's great at what he does. Just a super nice guy. You guys are going to love him. And those webinars are interactive, right? They're live, and you, as the audience member, can type in questions or comments, and we want your interaction. So please join us on those Appraisal Report webinars. We'd love to have you. So Hal, thanks for your time. I know we got a magazine coming out soon, and some good stuff there. You want to give a plug for the magazine real quick before I hang up on you?
Yeah, Appraisal Buzz magazine comes out once a year. We're really proud of the content in this magazine. We have some really amazing writers working on articles right now. And Appraisal Buzz does kind of a double duty. It serves as the program and schedule for Valuation Expo, as well as just having a lot of hearty, meaty material in there for boots on the ground appraisers. So yeah, Appraisal Buzz magazine coming out later this summer.
Hal, thanks so much for taking the time out to join us today. Love on your dad. Hope you have some good times with him in his final days. And we all need to love on one another because you never know if we're going to watch them in a state like that, or if they're going to drop dead in the backyard doing the yard work. We just never know. Hal, thanks for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Brian. Always good to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update podcast, brought to you by Appraiser eLearning as always. LIA administrators, thank you for your continued support. If you'd like to be on the program, reach out to me at Bryan, Bryan, at AppraiserElearning.com, or if you know someone that would be a good guest, we'd love to have them on. Until next time, stay warm out there, folks. It's been crazy cold. I hope business is picking up for you. Hang on there. I think 2024 is going to be a good year. I think it's the comeback of the boots on the ground appraiser. At least I'm hoping for that. Until next time, stay safe and happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.